welcome to the Tech and Sports Podcast, Episode 6. My name's Alex Radu, and I'm here with Mandy Kovacs.
Hello.
This week, we are minus our fabulous host, Paulo Del Nobledo, who is currently on vacation in Chicago to see the Blue Jays in Wrigley Field, but the two of us will step up to the plate.
Great pun, Alex.
Baseball puns, what can I say? Anyways, this week, I'll be building on my social media evaluation topic from last week and talking about Kevin Durant and his move to YouTube. Mandy will dive into a pro tennis player who unwinds with coding. Millennials, let me tell ya. And Paulo's presence will still be heard as he spoke with Alex Rice of DAZN over the phone to talk about the latest NFL streaming platform in Canada. For the debate portion, Mandy and I are going to talk about what's going on with players' associations and wearable devices, and trivia will return next week alongside our glorious leader. So sit back and relax, because two of your third stringers are coming right to the game. So Mandy, run me through what's going on with this coding tennis star.
Yeah, I came across a pretty cool story during the Rogers Cup, which ended this past Sunday. And his name is Peter Polansky. He's a 29-year-old from Thornhill, which is about 30 minutes north of Toronto and basically where I'm from. And he currently ranks number 116 in the world of pro tennis. And in the Rogers Cup this year, he got to the round of 32 before being beaten by Roger Federer, and was ranked Canada's top men's single player until Raonic and Pospisil joined the fray in 2011. But so The Athletic is reporting that he's actually a self-taught computer programmer, and he's released a mobile game for iPhones and is actually in the process of designing 2 more.
That's a lot of mobile games to be designing in your off time of being a professional athlete.
Yes, that's true. Apparently, after a long day on the tennis court, he likes to unwind by writing lines of codes for his games. And he told the website that his idea of a post-workout relaxation is being curled up next to his laptop and a complex algorithm.
So, you know, millennials.
Seriously,
killing
right?
Relaxing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he says he spends about 4 hours a night tinkering on his computer, and he's always been into video games, and really kind of jumped into the world of computer programming when he was 16. He kind of took a break for a little while to chase his tennis dreams, but in 2014, he created his first app called Little Avenger, which basically means users are a warrior and they're on a mission to slay monsters. And his next app that he's working on will involve taking care of a virtual pet until they're ready to battle through the game. And he's hoping that'll be out by the end of 2017 or maybe the beginning of 2018. And he was asked by The Athletic whether he sees a relationship between coding and tennis, and he said not really, but says that they do kind of both require a level of perseverance and working hard to fix the little things. Interesting story, I thought. I mean, that's not something I would have ever expected from a tennis player.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess athletes have to have hobbies too, and, you know, maybe that hobby's just making video games.
Yeah,
it kind of. Do you remember the Tamagotchi?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like, right?
It sounds like Tamagotchi, except, like, at some point they, like, battle. Though I forgot if, like, Tamagotchi.
Well, it's kind of like Tamagotchi mixed with Pokemon, I think.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, I would actually download that. I'm really excited for this app.
I mean, I'm not sure I would. Personally, I'm not sure if I would.
You're a video game guy.
I mean, just because I'm a video game guy doesn't mean I'm going to try out every single random mobile app.
Virtual pets aren't enticing to you? Come on.
I mean, I have enough real pets.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, that's super interesting. I would never have expected not really just an athlete to also be such a big coder, but I feel like that might just actually just come from stereotypes involving athletes and technology.
Well, that's the thing, right? And you also get the stereotype that athletes are really dumb all the time. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's like a really big science and math guy, you don't get that very often, which is it's cool to see.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get him on the podcast someday soon.
Yes, gonna work on that for everyone.
Awesome. All right, so for my story, we have YouTube and Kevin Durant. So, as many people know, YouTube's the biggest video platform in the world. And millennials and younger are turning to YouTube for their entertainment. And now NBA superstars as well, specifically Golden State Warrior Kevin Durant, the current NBA Finals MVP. He started his own YouTube channel earlier this year, and needless to say, it's been quite a success. At the time of this recording, he's currently at a little under 400,000 subscribers. It's interesting what KD is doing here. Because this is really the next evolution of how athletes are going to be interacting with their fans. KD started with his Still KD series that chronicled his journey of joining the Warriors to their championship run, and that culminated with a 35-minute mini-documentary that currently has over 1.1 million views. Since then, KD has posted videos of his summer trip to India, where he broke the Guinness World Record for largest basketball lesson ever, with 3,459 children participating.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot of kids. And like any other YouTuber, Katie's collaborating. So he teamed up with one of the most popular YouTube channels in the world, the Slow-Mo Guys, for a dunking in slow motion video. And Katie is even live streaming throughout the season.
That's kind of cool. But I mean, like, so this is really exciting for fans, but how do sponsors and businesses get excited or even get on board?
So this is the part that really, really excites me. And last week I talked about the social media valuation of NBA sponsors and how it was $444 million just last season. So that's not counting YouTube. And this is an entirely different avenue for NBA stars and really athletes in general to go after. For example, KD has an entire section of his YouTube channel dedicated to, and it's called The Boardroom, and it shows off his commercials and any other business/sponsored videos that he's in. And that's huge. This creates entire new opportunities for sponsors. Kids want the gear that their favorite athletes are using, even if it's, not actually like shoes or something like that. They still want what their athletes are doing. It's just the nature of the game, the nature of what kids want.
Yeah, really.
And so as KD gets more popular on YouTube, more and more people are going to be exposed to the brands that he represents. So a huge opportunity there. Plus, his collaboration with channels like the Slow-Mo Bros put him in front of viewers who may not exactly be a basketball fan, let alone a Kevin Durant fan. So there's only huge upside for this type of engagement overall.
Huh. Well, like, I'm trying to think of other players that have done this, and I can't think of any. Can you?
Not really.
like what can people learn from this? How do they get involved, or how do other stars like capitalize on platforms like YouTube?
So that is also a really interesting part, because Katie's undeniably the most popular athlete on YouTube, or the most dedicated to YouTube as a channel. You have other athletes like Gordon Hayward, the new Celtic. He streams video games. You have guys like Hunter Pence of the San Francisco Giants in the MLB, who's embedded in YouTube communities. His wife is formerly used to run her own channel. I'm not sure if she still does. And he appears on different YouTube stuff all the time, whether it's gaming or other things. But KD easily takes the cake when it comes here. But the reason why for other athletes should get involved is simple. This is just a whole other level of interaction. They're on social media to engage with their fans. And this is just giving more insight. I mean, you can now KD's live streaming like him going to a Chance concert. Like, it's totally a game changer when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that level of interaction. And, millennials, we're always striving for new information, right? So, there you go.
A whole lot of millennial jokes this podcast, I'm noticing.
Well, I mean, we are the millennials of the show, so you're welcome, everyone.
But yeah, so I think it's just a huge opportunity for businesses and athletes to really start working together on a platform that they haven't really been doing so far, at least what I've noticed. So for our last and third story, Paulo spoke with Alex Rice of DAZN. This is an NFL streaming platform that's coming to Canada this year. So they spoke over the phone earlier today and recorded the conversation. Take a listen.
Now joining us on Tech and Sports is Alex Rice, the Managing Director of Rights and Strategic Development for DAZN. DAZN is spelled D-A-Z-N, and you can find them online at www.dazn.com. Alex, thanks a lot for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for having me today to talk to you.
So tell me about the service you offer.
So we've just launched. We're a few weeks into being available in Canada. We launched the service in four other countries in August last year. And it's hopefully a fairly straightforward proposition for customers and for fans, and obviously large focus on sports fans, because it's a service that is focused on live sports. It's focused particularly in Canada on the ability to have access to every single NFL game live through the season, including playoffs and the Super Bowl. We'll have the catch-up rights as well for fans in Canada, as well as the ability to watch some of the sort of great shows the NFL produces, such as Hard Knocks and live Sunday afternoon coverage of Red Zone. So it's a really full service for NFL fans, and then we've also expanded it already to a number of other sports as well. So it gives you access to the Women's Tennis Tour, it gives you access to every Serie A game, every La Liga game, every Liga game. So it's a really strong European soccer package. And then we're also acquiring other sports rights from around the world as well, and obviously in Canada. So it's hopefully for customers a very straightforward proposition. You subscribe for $20 a month, or you can come in for $150 for an annual pass. And a lot of people have kind of compared it to Netflix, and one of the reasons why it's compared is also the ability to have a month to trial the service. So we can then, if you like the service and want to carry on, then obviously we welcome you in. If you're not sure, then you can obviously end your trial at that particular point.
So that's interesting that it's sort of a Netflix for sports. What other differences does DAZN have compared to other services that offer sports?
Well, I mean, one of the key differences from the outset for us is the ability to access it everywhere. So smart TVs, PCs, tablets, smartphones, game consoles. Viewing very simple and easy. It's hopefully, I think, particularly to a generation who are cord cutters and who are used to subscription products, there'll be nothing there that phases them. They'll be used to accessing services and OTT services in this way. And I think that's one of the hopeful, welcoming features for fans in Canada. They'll recognise we've put a huge amount into the technology and a huge amount into the access from day one. And so already we're across the majority of the major devices and connected devices in Canada.
So the NFL season just kicked off with the first round of preseason games, and the real stuff is going to be in early September, starting in New England. Why important to partner with the NFL?
Well, we really wanted. We launched the service in Japan, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And one of the key areas for us to be able to launch is a package of rights and a property such as the NFL that immediately gravitates towards a big population, a big fan base, a big connected fan base. So when we're looking at the markets that we're trying to go into and look at, we need to know that we have a fan base that will immediately will look at the service, will hopefully subscribe, and then will stay with us and recognise that again it's great value and it's a great service. And I think that's where the NFL, when we were working with them over the last 12 months to bring this together for Canada, they were very supportive of our proposal and our plans.
So speaking of plans, what is your plans to grow the service? What other sort of properties are you looking at?
So we've always in the market for new properties, and we've probably can't unfortunately name those by each one individually today, but hopefully if you listeners Google us and look at some of the other properties that we've gained in the other markets, you'll see that we are very ambitious. We've acquired the Champions League, Europa League soccer rights in Germany and Austria. We also acquired the Mayweather-McGregor fight in Austria, Germany, and Japan in the last few weeks.
Interesting.
So we've taken a very, hopefully, ambitious view. In Japan, we've got the domestic soccer league, which is one of the biggest properties in Japan. We're the exclusive rights holder for the next 10 years, alongside a very strong soccer and baseball package. So we've got pretty strong ambitions for Canada. I hope you understand that I can't necessarily divulge every single property that we're in discussion with, but
such as the NHL, right?
Well, there's a long-term deal with the NHL in place, but we'd hope to be able to offer fans in Canada breadth of coverage and also naturally sports that they want to watch.
Right, of course. Well, okay, Alex, thank you very much for joining us. We're definitely going to monitor the progress of DAZN, and we wish you the best of success and look forward to catching up later.
Thanks, Paolo. I appreciate the time.
Okay, so that was Alex Rice, the Managing Director of Rights and Strategic Development for DAZN. And let's move on to the next segment on Tech and Sports.
All right, and thanks to Paolo for taking time in the middle of his vacation to do that. Now we're moving on to our debate section of today's podcast, and we're looking at how leagues and players' associations are dealing with wearables and the data that they collect. So in the MLB, for example, there are 2 wearable devices that have been approved for in-game use since last season, and 1 more was added this year. And while they're completely voluntary, players have control over how the information that's collected is used, as well as how much is collected and what's shared with who. But at the end of July, the MLB's Player Association released the details of their latest collective bargaining agreement, which essentially bans the use of wearable data for commercial purposes or in salary arbitration. So my question to you really is whether they're doing the right thing in this situation. Because at the time, most players said that they know that the technology helps them improve their game, but that they're concerned with A, the potential invasion of their privacy, and B, that this data could be used against them in contract negotiations, hence the new rules, obviously. And I just found this super interesting because the MLB's stance on this is actually the opposite of the NFL, whose Players Association decided last year that NFL players do actually have the ability to commercialize their wearable data and really make money off of it if they want to. So it kind of looks like baseball is once again taking the more conservative approach to all of this. But is that the right approach? So, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was actually going to bring up that very NFL kind of example. So they partnered with a Boston-based company called Whoop.
Yeah.
To use an officially licensed piece of wearable technology. It's a sensor that's strapped to players' arms that allows them to monitor activity during training, recovery, sleep, etc. So it gives them easy access to, ownership of, and the option to commercialize their health data. So this means that the data is theirs. For instance, Tom Brady's data is not the New England Patriots data, it's Tom Brady's data.
Intellectual property type
Exactly,
of stuff. Yeah.
And so that's where I think is interesting, because when it comes to the players, I totally understand the whole mentality of like, it's the same Big Brother type mentality of like, oh, do I really want to let my team monitor every part of my day?
Right.
You know, because that's not great for anything. You don't want your job. I mean, this is their job. You don't want, like, we wouldn't want our bosses to be monitoring like 24/7 how we're sleeping. Oh, you're tired today? Well, that's because you only slept 7 hours or 4 hours last night.
Right. It's like, why did you get home at 4 o'clock, Mandy?
Well, why did you go to sleep at 3 a.m.? I don't.
Yeah.
So
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. But it's interesting, too, that the MLB's taking this conservative approach, because you then look at the NBA, and as always, I have to bring it back to the NBA.
Of course.
They actually covered this in their 2017 collective bargaining agreement. So they set aside rules to, try and begin the understanding of this problem, because it is still so new in professional sports. So under the new CBA, players have established rights to their own data, and the use of that data in contract negotiations is banned. And the players ultimately have the right to approve the devices that they use, and they can enact punishments for data use violations. And I think that's, like, honestly the first a huge big step. If you'd right away just ban it from contract negotiations, then that solves that problem of why players wouldn't want to do it. Because it then prevents teams from being like, oh, we're giving you this contract because you wouldn't have noticed this otherwise, but your sleeping is off, you are jumping a quarter of a foot less, so, you're now scoring point something less, not even like 1 point lower, So I think this is a good start when it comes to protecting players.
Okay, but rebuttal for that, though. I mean, players are playing a game, and their whole livelihoods are based on how well they can play that game. And teams are only there because they want the best players, right? So, I mean, isn't that the players almost lying to the teams that are trying to give them contracts, though? Like, a team wants to know how healthy a player is before signing them, right? Or negotiating a contract. So, if they're completely unaware that a player has really bad heart rate or something, or is on the cusp of falling apart, metaphorically, right? Like, is that fair on the team's part to be signing a guy like that when they could be spending the money on someone else?
Yeah, and I think that's where it's just going to come down to the evolution of this. Because I think that's ultimately where it's going to come to. But I think we're, like, not even years away from that, like, probably a couple decades. Because I think, like, you're not going to be able to persuade let's go to, like, the leagues and, like, the all-star superstars who are in their late 20s, early 30s. You're not going to persuade them that this is something that they want.
No, it's
like,
true.
That's not going to happen. The people who you might begin to start persuading that that's cool: Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, the rookies who are all coming in.
Peak physical performance.
Yeah, because
right?
they're not necessarily worried about that sort of thing. And athletes now are only going to start growing up with more and more wearables, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, as they become more used to it, they're just like, that sort of wearable technology when you're a high schooler is going to start weeding out kids then.
Yeah, that's a
so
good
like
point.
the players, like, let's say Dwight Howard, for instance, who I firmly believe that Dwight Howard just does not even like basketball. It's just he's good at it and tall.
Right.
But like perhaps a player like him who had a short all-star career. I mean, I guess that's up for debate, but whatever. It would weed out people like that starting then, and then they're already used to it. So when they're all in their 20s and 30s, and this is all coming up again in the late 2020s, that's not a big deal.
No, that's fair. But I mean, I think going back to the MLB, so they're banned for using it for commercial purposes, and I think that's where I really disagree with it, because I mean, I think back to like 2015, I would love to have known Bautista's heart rate for the bat flip moment, or to know Roberto Osuna's heart rate in like the bottom of the 9th inning in a tie game or something. Like, I think that'd be super cool information to have as a viewer, as a fan watching the game, whether you're at home or at the stadium. I mean, the questions that kind of brings up is, I mean, that's almost free advertising for the wearables. So how did they monetize that? Who would get the money? Would it be the players wearing it? The broadcasters actually saying the words? I don't know. But I think that's the one part of this that I would feel a little bit more strongly about. Because, I mean, I want that information. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's the fan engagement part. And we've talked a lot about the Tour de France and how that's almost all for the fans. Like all the stuff that Dimension Data was doing. And yeah, because that would be so cool. Like, imagine knowing Sidney Crosby's heartbeat when he scored the golden goal in 2010.
Oh,
like that'd be so cool. Or just you can see, if you know the whole team, you can see when they won.
Right.
When he took that shot, like it would be like, or like just the average heart rate of, like, we don't know what the average heart rate of an NHL player or an athlete and like superstar, like what's, you know, Kobe Bryant's heartbeat when he's shooting a game winner at the end of a game. I bet it's nothing because it's cold as ice.
Yeah, seriously.
But like that's all really cool information. But I think that's something that the MLB, they're behind on, because you have NFL players agreeing that it's their right to commercialize it. So if you don't want to, you don't have to. NBA players, they haven't gotten to that part yet of how it's going to be sold, but they're on the first step to there. It's just that's I think a business decision, not necessarily a yes or no, this should happen.
Yeah.
So
I don't even think the NHL has touched on this at all. I haven't heard much about it.
I mean, if the MLB is conservative, the NHL is
maybe the most?
Even more so.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up our debate portion, and that's it for this week's episode of Tech and Sports. I'm Mandy Kovacs, and that's Alex Verdu, and thanks for listening. If you guys want to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, that would be great. And you can read more sports content on itbusiness.ca/sports.